E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover mentoring our youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and donnaguinouard. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda.
Well, hello, Jim. Jim, you're looking pretty still there. I'm not sure if you got enough quarters for the machine today. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and bring Adam on. And we'll get this show on the road. Here we go.
Well, hello. Hi, Emerson.
Adam Green. Hello, hello. Jim will be rejoining us in a little while. One of the things about live TV is you roll with the punches on it.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. There's a lot to discuss.
Where
today.
are you located at right now, Adam?
So currently, I'm in the heart of Florida, right in the dab smack middle of it, and it's a hot day today. So yeah, we're just out here, Florida, living the sunny dreams, Sunshine State.
I am back, I think,
for
temporarily.
I see Jim.
Yeah.
Looks like he's trying to pop back in.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Good,
Hey, Jim.
good.
Give him just a minute.
I just got to give another wonderful shout out to AT&T. They went from terrible to awful. Because I had everything set up. Anyway, it's an ongoing thing. I'm just to be so thankful living out here in the country when we get someone out here other than AT and terrible and awful. How about that? And I told them I'm going to do this because they're just been putting us off on upgrading the system out here. And I'm not trying to be cruel or anything, but it's aggravating, ladies and gentlemen, when you're getting ready to go live on a show like this. My goodness gracious, you get kicked off, and I think I'm frozen again, ain't I?
Nope.
I'm okay. Looks like my picture's frozen. Just rigor mortis. Oh, my goodness gracious.
I don't know how you're speaking without moving your lips, but you're doing a good job.
Oh, I ought to take this act and go to stage. Anyway, we're so glad to welcome Adam Green with us. He's the going to be hosting the Wednesday show along with us on mentoring our youth because Emerson said, would you?
Well, seems that Jim said that you were letting people know something about the hosting.
Yeah. I think it's a great thing having you stepping in and picking up the mantle on the Wednesday show. Mentoring our youth is one of the 5 things that we picked out as themes for the show. And most of the viewers, most of you know, there's not a lot of either podcast or TV shows out there that run an hour a day.
For sure.
Of course, there are shows that run an hour a day, but I'm saying
no, but
especially
in
over
pertaining to
the
the
internet,
youth aspect, the
you have
future
people-
aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other part, specifically focused on mentoring youth. And by the way, that doesn't just mean it's for the mentors, right? It's also for the mentees, and I think we're going to dig into that a little bit.
Precisely.
So who are some of the people? Who are some of the people that made that really made a difference in your life, and as you were on the journey up to where you are today? And in just a minute, we want to talk about where you're at today and the things that you're doing. Even though we did that on a different show, I want to do that again. But who were some of the people who had a big impact on you when you were going through the journey?
I'll definitely start with just a quick introduction. I am a graduate from Full Sail University. I have a film bachelor's degree. And what that journey took me from the beginning was really, I had an idol of a YouTuber who I really liked. And that idol turned into a somewhat mentor due to the fact that, watched him all the time, took in what he did, his actions, his vocal performances, all these different things. And that idol, turned into a mentor without being a mentor, so yes, I would comment on certain videos, and I would comment on certain actions that he would do, but I would, at the end of the day, I would always ask my family, what they thought. So my family was my biggest supporter, mentor, like my father, as well as my brother and a few other people along the way. Just to name a few, when I was in third grade, Miss Leach, which was my third grade teacher, taught me how to be patient. And as important as it is to learn at a young age to be patient for certain things, the penalizing, for it was a different style I wasn't used to. So it, even now, it's probably because I'm so energetic, hyperactivity, that kind of thing, that got me in a lot of trouble back then when it comes to, being that high energy spirit. But that's what really honed me in, was that learning about patience, putting myself in a corner, thinking about my how to use that energy for a good purpose and a proper purpose. So that was a mentor when I was growing up. And of course, teachers are great mentors. Speaking of a few teachers, they're all over, everywhere, and they're getting, they're getting really good at their curriculum for the future, especially in the arts degree program. Um, I definitely know some of these teachers out here are not getting as much as they need, but sometimes they do. And what I mean by that is, like, putting it in a bigger perspective of each, teacher getting what they need to teach their classrooms. As much as they do get the curriculum, it is still the training that they go through, which is a very important part of our ecosystem, in a sense of training the youth, mentoring the youth, and being not just their teacher, being someone that they can go to if they have, some kind of issue with their particular subject. And that's also what I feel like mentors go through, is they go through this dilemma of, well, what do you need, but also, what do I need to give the proper advice to this person, and what qualifies you to do that. So there's this large, I guess, perception that we have to be a certain age, or we have to be a certain, way to be a mentor to someone, to teach someone how to do something that they want to do. Let's talk about the film industry, for example. a lot of people in the film industry, they tend to work in groups, large groups, and very, intuitive camaraderie within those groups, because each person has their strengths and weaknesses. Well, I would believe that some of those people, along the way, they either self-taught, and that's a great way to mentor people, is if you're self-taught, if you went to college. And there's also when you go to college, you have mentors already teaching you, because they're professors and stuff like that. So I mean, just
Well, and
just to name, a few ways, that'd be it.
yeah, and what's interesting, you are doing cinematographic work, videography, and
Yes,
you're
of course.
working with veterans, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
And I bet along the way, in learning their stories, you found a number of people who you could consider even in that mentors that
Yes, for
you weren't
sure.
even expecting.
I could tell you about a beautiful man, Dwayne, and Dwayne he was a chaplain in the army,
Oh wow!
and he was I believe, an E6 or an E5. But the purpose of his journey was teaching soldiers how to adapt to their mentalities. So in the chaplain service, it's not just all about God. It's about what you believe in and how to, shift your mindset in that paradigm. Positively, it reflects that if you were to, for example, go into the military, you are presented with challenges. There's a lot of challenges that you have to face, and you have to be mentally prepared for those. So when you go into the starting block of going through basic and going through all these things, you learn that you are becoming something of a person that can do more than the average person. Let's just say that, right? Um, and with that more average individual, they will have more than average mental issues coming out of it, depending on how their service goes. I guess mental issues isn't really a good word to say, but more so, they're going to have more brain activity that's on
Oh yeah.
the more, like, amygdala zone of the brain, the fight or flight, particularly. So in that regard, their mentors are these chaplains that are out there in the service, that are active duty, as well as non-active duty, and they are there for your spiritual, mental health, to make sure that you're there to do what you need to do and do it right, but still care for you in the regard of, like, let me lay hands over you and talk about what the issues are, and just in a very friendly, brotherly way, sisterly way, what may it be to you, to the viewers. But I view that there is a important aspect of just that one story within this veteran community that does speak volumes to who actually needs to talk to someone. Even if you feel like you don't want to talk to someone, sometimes you may need to, just out of making you feel better. And there's always that good saying of, like, oh, well, if you talk about it, maybe you'll make you feel better. So there's always a good solid light that someone can bring into the room to allow
Well,
them to have that safe space.
how has that experience impacted you? And in turn, how has the experience impacted some of the people that I know that you also have begun taking under your wings and mentoring?
The experiences so far, they've all been very different. And with adversity, being able to bounce back from things and see these traumatic injuries from people that I've met, while also maintaining their own inspiration. Well, also it varies from many different people. Like I've met a mentor figure named Peyton recently, and he has, I believe, cerebral palsy, and is in a wheelchair. He and I talked. We met at my job, and I was just nice to him. We were talking about Minnesota, and he can clearly talk and communicate. So I was like, oh, he's just another dude, just another guy that was interesting. He told me about his program, of mentorship and being able to share his message and story. And I'd love to get him on at some point. That would be a really great person to interview. We need to find a way to incorporate him on live. So that's a person of interest that I've come across who does more of the special needs and disabled disabilities side of mentoring, as well as just people in general. He said that was mainly his thing, was just to be an inspiration and to hold that inspiration for others, to never give up, to not just throw in the towel, to put something away on the shelf and forget about it. Or, when you get a new toy, keep playing with it, that kind of thing of just being intrigued in something, having that self-motivation or drive to incorporate yourself into what you think it matters.
I think Jim has a question.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just going to make a comment. One thing about the military, too, ladies and gentlemen, is that there's no generation gap. Because you take an old Vietnam veteran like me, I can sit down and I can talk to a young troop today, because that military foundation gives us it really does. It gives you a foundation to be able to visit, because they respect what the Vietnam veterans do. We respect the fact that they, serve their country. Many times the youth today that serve in the military have pulled multiple tours of duty overseas in Afghanistan, Iraq. And my son, of course, is one who Emerson met when he first came back in 2017 after he was awarded the Bronze Star. So that's a beautiful foundation right there. And that's a good point for you as a mentor to find that common ground as a foundation, to be able to communicate and be there for the youth. And most importantly, just like the veterans, we understand what they're going through. And you could use the experiences of your youth to understand where they're coming from as far as the principles. Would you agree with that, Emerson?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's that broad range of experiences. And any of you who are watching, you have a unique life experience on your journey that nobody else has. And there's things that you have learned along the way that you are able to share with other people. This is about mentoring youth, but really, Jim, it's about mentoring anybody at any time. We all have those individual life experiences that make you who you are. And a lot of people don't. I think some of our viewers might have heard me say this before. There's an old saying of familiarity breeds contempt. It's usually used having to do with long-term relationships. Well, who do you have a longer relationship with than yourself? And what often happens is that we diminish our own value because we know the real story. We know who we are. We know every failure, every trip up, everything. But the thing is,
you take note of that
our
too.
experience is what gives the value. That's what brings the value to somebody else. So just doing any simple thing. How did you learn to do that? Well, this and that, and we don't think that much about it because it's just who we are. But for the other person, it's like revelation knowledge because they're struggling.
Emerson, would you agree on this point that when someone becomes like when they learn something like completely new and they've been practicing it for a while, they may slip out and say, "Oh, this is simple," right? Would
Yes.
you agree that there are people like that, and that brings up a
All
good
of us
topic?
have done that.
Mm-hmm. Because it's a solid point. Yes, to you, it may have become simple, but that may not be where that other person's at. Piggybacking off of what you said earlier, Emerson.
You're exactly right, because in marketing, Emerson is a marketing guru. He really is. And one of the things that he has taught me at Facts Tell and Stories Sell, that principle is very, very applicable here, because when you start sharing your story, how you struggled, how you felt during that time, that is a great foundation for someone to buy into your story and open up to you, because they can relate to your story. That's very, very critical. Now, I love that Facts Tell and Stories Sell, because it's so true.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. It's why when we talk about books, and Mike Lewis, who co-hosts with me usually on Thursdays, is a publisher, but we say all the time, there's a story inside of you.
Yeah.
There's experience inside of you, and it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how small you may feel it is. There's somebody else who needs to hear that story. Those are the things that kind of keep moving civilization forward, for that matter. We started as storytellers, sharing the stories among the members of a tribe or of a group. And a lot of times we kind of lose that part of the past, but it is the stories that sell. It's the stories that make the difference. And people are hungry. They're more hungry today, I think, Jim and Adam, than ever before.
For sure.
And if we think about it, how can they be hungry? Because there's a thousands of channels, and there's millions of pages on the internet, and there's AI, and there's all of this. Well, that just makes it harder.
Definitely the internet's
draw. Harder.
And the internet has a very profound experimental, while also allowing information to be so accessible that it's almost as if there's become a niche where the thought process, the thought process is the niche, right? That thought process being, I can just look it up. I can just tap a few words, enter a prompt, find the answer. However, there's so much good written material out there, like you're talking about, that already has those stories that creatively tell you, to find food a certain way, to, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but there are generous amounts of different genres you
Jim,
can explore.
chomping at the bit.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
You can share some of these stories, because the AIs, the stories online, and anything online, it lacks one thing that you bring to the party, and that's your personality. That's that personal connection.
Yeah.
That's what builds the foundation. That's the glue that holds everything else together. And even though whoever you're talking to there and listening to their problem, you may not have experienced, but going through the internet and looking at some of the stories, I read a story about this guy, and you can tell that story, and that becomes a magnet to draw them closer, because it shows that you are concerned enough about them to invest your time and to share stories with them, to be able to help them in their hour of need. Because and when it comes to being a mentor, there could be young people mentoring me on things that I don't know. And just because I'm old and ugly, I mean, that doesn't automatically grandfather me in, so to speak.
No pun
But
intended.
yeah, no pun intended. Yeah. But the fact of it is that even we all need to be open-minded and receptive, because our minds are like a magnet. And when we do that, we can do so much more. We really can. And that's our calling in life. It really is, to be a blessing to others.
To leave it behind better than it was when you got here.
I like that.
Yep.
Always
Adam,
enter a
also-
room and fill it with light. Yeah. I don't know.
Yep.
So
tell us. Go ahead. But I have a question for you.
Yes. Go. No. Perfect.
Yeah. Tell us, in the work that you're doing, who are some of the people, because you have to work with teams of people, basically.
Yes.
But I'm curious, what are some examples where you've been able to mentor somebody else in the things that you do, in the filmmaking and the videography and the interviewing and the things like that?
It was a great opportunity recently. I was approached by a old friend. I volunteered at the VA Medical Hospital. It's one of the larger VAs out here in Orlando, and just off of Lake Nona Boulevard. The programs that they had over there was like a volunteering program. And they still have that program out for anyone who wants to get any volunteer hours. If you're a young person looking to get some volunteer hours, the VA is actually a great place. You'll be wheeling around veterans all day, hearing stories left and right. And it's a blast. And it's so much fun. It really is. Like, you get to see these people in their prime, while also seeing them where they're at currently. So that when I say see, I mean visualize, internalize where they were in their prime. While also, some veterans are already, the youth that have retired, so to speak. They've done enough active duty to have their retirement, and those people are, in their mid 30s, 40s. Those young people. So those are the more enjoyable conversations. Although when you get into what I was doing, I was, wheeling, wheelchairing everybody. And one day I came across somebody, and I just asked him a question. I was like, well, where do you work? He told me he worked in the medical media side of the hotel, the hospital. It's a hotel for all of the nurses and doctors, but no sleep. So the medical media side had this man I met named Brian. Brian had a mutual person that he knew, it was this person's mother, who was asking if he knew anybody to mentor her daughter in sound. And I got contacted a few weeks ago by him, and I said, what's all the details? Who's this person? What is it for? And he told me that it was for a class. It was just for a simple. The teacher of the class said to go out, find a mentor, ask them a bunch of these questions, and write them down. So I followed through. I kept asking. I was like, well, when is she going to text me? Here's my number. And a few weeks later, finally get a text. Well, that text was, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. Can you do that? And I said, yeah, I've already talked to your parents, and I've already talked to the, Brian and all that. And she's like, oh, Brian. And then we chatted. So what she was looking for, and what the teacher was looking for, was to network specifically in the film industry with sound, where she wanted to go, right? Because in this beautiful world that we live in of content and just videos, or sharing different things with people, it was a crucial moment for her to choose the path that she wanted to go down, of either being a boom operator, being a sound mixer, being a recordist specifically, or if she wanted to mix and master music for scores and different things like that. So I explored the options with her, and we viewed her YouTube channel. She had something already going on where she liked music edits, and those music edits were, towards DC comic movies or DC comic TV shows and stuff like that. So she would match the music to the film in a certain way that would line up the story. And I thought that was a very interesting point of view because of how versatile sound is. And you could probably get me on a soapbox with 20 or 30,000 people out there just talking about sound for about 3 days, and we'd be a Sabbath. But the best part about it was she really looked up for a moment, and like as I was like commenting on some things, she realized that it really was about the consistency that mattered as much as like being interested. So when I asked her, I said, well, what did you get out of our meeting today? And she said, well, I got hopefully a good grade. And I was like, okay, great. Anything else? And she was just like, well, now I kind of understand where I want to go with all this. And I was like, well, that's good, because that was, mainly what I'd hoped for, was that she got something completely out of it at all. Learning anything, taking little nuggets of knowledge that you can bring anybody just by speaking to them. Asking, how was your day? There's one thing, Dwayne, piggybacking off of the veteran, what he taught, and it's actually part of the documentary. He said, if in communication, there's a certain levels of communication that we get with certain people, and with those certain people, you can either be on the facts level, oh, how was your day? Good. Great. How was your day? Oh, my day was fine. Did you get the bread? Yes, I got the bread. Or no, I forgot it. Those kind of things. Hey, did you take a shower today? Yeah. No. Instead of being like, oh, you stink, and making a joke out of it, like some people in some relationships do. It's just that level of communication. So if you're on an emotional level, comedic level, if you've gotten to this point, I don't know what those levels are. There's no book of levels or anything to communication that I know of. Maybe you guys do. But that's part of a different thing that Dwayne, the chaplain, taught me when I was doing the edits for this. And it was a very important message to talk about communication, and both of you. You have your own relationships and how those relationships have their own communication styles. And I'm interested to wonder about, maybe someone you have mentored yourselves, starting with probably Jim, who you've mentored in the past, that you had that communication and kept that communication, up until this day.
Yeah, I've had a young lady that I've worked with over the years, and she calls me a lot. We're great friends. She's like a little sister to me. And she said, there's two things that I like about you. She says, number one, you listen. And number two, you make me laugh. And, laughter is one of the greatest things that you can help. So I'm not talking about just being lighthearted about what she's talking to. But I'm able to, I have the knack and the ability to lighten the load and help them, to say, hey, take a deep breath and relax. Because where you're at right now is the perfect place for you. But it's not where you're going to wind up. This place that you're in right now is teaching you something. Embrace that and drive on. Do not let that, whatever it might be, that hurdle, do not let it be a 12-foot wall in front of you. It's simply a little 2-foot wall you're going to step over and go and grow from it. And she really appreciated that, because the main thing too is always be yourself. and share with them
Authenticity.
share with
So
them some of the
important.
things that you have done. And one of the things that really impresses me, I don't know if we've mentioned him or not, is Mark Green. I think you might
Mhm.
know him. And your dad, he has been an inspiration of reaching out. And what's his email address? Step up and step out or something like that? Or
Step out, step up 7 at gmail.com.
there you go.
Yes.
There you go. But he demonstrates that because that's an accurate description of him, isn't it?
It is. And it's a motto. It's a
Yeah.
very important decision that people make to stay
Hmm.
in the fight
Oh
and to
yeah.
keep going. And I know that this upcoming month is hope themed, to
Hmm.
let everyone know that you can definitely hope that
Hmm.
there's going to be some good coming your way.
Yeah. That's why I put down there on the marquee, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. It's about a 30-minute video there on YouTube. And it's an MP3, which means it just has a fixed picture of him. But when you listen to that message, it really does open your mind, and it tells you how special of a person you are. And I don't want to share a lot about The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale because number one, I would probably goof it up. Number two, I don't want to spoil what The Strangest Secret's all about. But I give you my word, ladies and gentlemen, that if you go to YouTube and Google Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret, it will bless you. And that's when you take that blessing and share it with others, because once you accept, hey, I've been blessed, the doors were automatically open for someone somewhere to come along down your pathway of life for you to give an encouraging word or to be a blessing to. And that's, as Emerson likes to say, how do you say that? We will leave this world better than we found it, or something like that. Yeah, I'm slaughtering his words. He'll clean it up for me.
No, that's
Did I do it right?
yeah.
Oh,
We
okay.
we
That,
we leave it better than we found it. I
yeah,
want to segue for just a second, and Jim, you
sure.
kind of triggered something for me, and this is for people who are saying, "Wow, I could use a mentor. If I could find a mentor, and I wish I had a mentor, and all of that." First of all, the mentee, okay, the person who's to be mentored, the mentee, there's a lot of there's there's some responsibilities on your shoulder. Most of the time when we're talking about mentoring youth, I think what we
Mhm.
talk about more is from the standpoint of giving, which we started this out with being willing to take the time and being willing to share, and that what you have to share has value and all of those things. But I just want to segue for just a second. Uh, if you are the person who wants to be mentored, the mentee, then what one of the things that you need to do is to listen. Well, even before that, you need to ask, okay? And you need to be really clear on what it is that you're wanting to be mentored, what it is that you're tripping up on, what it is that you're trying to break through or understand or be able to deal with, or whatever the circumstance is. And you've got to be willing to ask. You've got to be willing to learn and listen. And I'm going to add one other element in this. Um, you may not always hear what you want to hear. Would both of you
Mm,
agree with that?
that is true.
Hmm.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
may, but if you are asking and trusting somebody to mentor you, listen and take the time to process it. And I'm going to share a story where because sometimes there's tough love in mentorship.
Hmm.
I worked in a company where I literally, over a period of years, I did many thousands of campaigns. So there was a lot of writing. And that's one of the things many of our viewers know that I've done for years. in my marketing and strategy work. I also do copywriting work, and I did literally thousands of campaigns while I was at this company. There was a woman in the company, somewhat high up. I mean, in the company, she was a manager, and she began saying, "I want you to mentor me." Mental and mentor are two different things, but I knew she was stumbling on it. But that was she. Every day she'd see, "I want you to mentor me. I want to learn how to write like you write. I want you to mentor me."
She wanted the fortitude you had.
That's country English.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I kind of got tired of it because there's an awful lot in anything that you know to do. When you have done it so much, you have that unconscious competence. And I recognized she was wanting me to say ABC 1, 2, 3. And there's more to it than that. There's more to it than ABC 1, 2, 3. Sometimes mentors have to be willing to give tough love. And that's hard for some people to accept. And in my case, excuse me, one morning I brought in my high school literature book. Remember those old thick books that you had in lit class?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the compound books.
Yeah. With just hundreds of different pieces in it, and some of them longer, some short stories, some poems, all different types. And I left it on her desk. And when she came in, she picked it up, said, "Where did this come from?" I said, I brought it in. She said, "What's this?" I said, "If you want to learn how to write well, read good literature first." And she said, "I know how to read. I want to learn how to write." So as the mentor, what I was giving her was a window. Because the truth is, if you begin reading and you're processing, this is how I learned to write. You're processing and you're getting the rhythm and you're getting the flow of it, and you're understanding these. You're seeing how they weave the words together, and you begin to get that internalized. And I think you both will agree with me. That's true of almost everything in our life.
Oh, yeah.
The challenges you overcome, the things that you've done, the things that you've learned, the way. How do you know when you're setting up your lighting, Adam, to do a shot? How do you know if the lighting's too hot, if the lighting's okay, if the background's okay? Is there shadow? Is there a window behind them that's putting them into a shadow? You learn those things along the way. Well, if it's the first day that somebody's on the job and they're watching you, why are you closing the curtains?
No, this does make sense about teaching the journey. That's the part of it.
You've been through the journey. They haven't. They're asking you, well, what do I do over here? And you've got to find a way to bridge the gap, because they haven't
having to give the full answer too. Sometimes, I mean, it's important to show that they're learning and to show them that they're learning. So it's like, as a trumpet player, as an instrumentalist, you don't tell yourself that you got it until you hear that you got it. And that also goes with painters seeing their painting finished, and we can go on for the swimmers beating their best time, the cyclist doing that rough terrain road, the BMX biker maybe, the skater hitting that one land of a trick. It's really those moments that are the shared moments that a mentor can give to inspire and to create that incentive to keep going, to do what they need to do.
Absolutely.
For what they want.
Yeah.
And what Emerson was talking about there flashed a thought in my mind. Think about, you may feel more comfortable with the written word than sitting down and talking to someone. Well, guess what? There are a lot of publications out there. Their editors are looking for good content because they need good content. And Emerson's got a lot of experience in that. We talk about press releases here sometimes on the shows, but you might be able to share a story from your heart and just put it in writing and send it to an editor. I mean, there are places on the internet where you can find, I don't know if it's called find an editor or whatever it is, but I mean, there's people out there, and sometimes you get paid for those. Help a reporter. That's it. .com. Yeah. And if they like your stories and all that, you build go ahead.
Well, the reverse is also true. You may be really good at speaking something, but when you try to, in fact, we were talking with somebody the other day, Jim, and it's like they were magical when they were speaking. In fact, we're going to have them on the show here one day soon. But they were, they were just clicking and moving and connecting dots and it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to their website and it wasn't amazing. And we were talking a little about that. And he said, oh, when it comes down to writing it down, it just comes out like wah, 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 like Charlie Brown's teacher or something. Well, see, we all have talents and we all have skills. And for some of us, if we just begin talking about what it is that we know, and we can record it. You can record it right on your phone.
Amen.
And there are programs that will transcribe it. And now it's written. Mm-hmm. Don't let your story. I'm just going to say the word die here. Don't let your story die inside you. There's somebody's life that you can impact with that story.
I bet you can get a whole segment
if it's
on
a
your
story
own with
about,
that too.
Say, the women in your family and things that took place when you were a child, or things that you want to share so the next generation gets it or understands something more about you than just a name and a date with a dash in between, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, because you get it out.
When it comes to families, I think all of us can relate to the fact prior to the written word, stories were passed down generation to generation for thousands of years just by, someone's sharing the story. And in every family, I really think that a lot of the family history dies when, elders start dying off because no one took the time to write it down or, whatever. But my point being is that, just think about it. You just wrote or you spoke, whatever is fits you. You recorded that either in the written word or on tape, and you were able to share how you felt. Because there's a lot of people out there, it might spark the interest that, hey, next time Aunt Julie's over or Uncle Ben or Grandma or whoever, we can sit down and just record a conversation with them about family history.
Well, I know that we all miss Uncle Ben very much. Mm-hmm. And to those who do have Uncle Ben who has passed away, my condolences. Mm-hmm. But on a less Spider-Man note, on a more real note, I did want to share that as a young person in a family, as I do relate definitely. That our elders are so important to talk to. And it just really is super important to check up, once in a while, and to not feel like a checkup, like a doctor's checkup, but more of a listen in, which is what my grandma usually says is listen in, so that you can get the full scope of what's all going on. and or the gossip for the day that you hear about. But that's it's a super important thing to do, is talk to your elders so that you have that history. And you could go on the applications or the companies that have all the DNA kits and stuff that can tell your heritage, but it's the traditions. It's those serious family traditions or fun and silly family traditions that either you as a young adult, having a kid in this age, maybe the viewer, or people who already have kids, who have made their own families, create and or carry down those same traditions.
Oh yeah.
So it's so important that you talk to the
Yep.
elders in your life. Just give them a call today. Definitely.
It really is.
I had a
'Cause, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Emerson.
I had a funeral that I had to go to. I was blessed to be able to be invited to last week, and it was of a 9th grade English teacher that I had. Now, her son had been my closest friend for 50 years, but I hadn't seen him for a while. But the 2 or 3 members of the family got up and told some stories about her, their mother, their grandmother, their great grandmother, and I felt like it would be good for someone not who shared a part of it, not from the family, but from outside the family, because she was a natural teacher. And so that's what I did. I got up and I spoke about how she gave us extra credit if we went to art openings and things like. She was an English teacher, but that got me started in that whole arena of the arts. And when I sat down, her daughter said to me, "Oh, Emerson, I thought you were going to tell that story about when you did the aquarium." And I went, "The aquarium?" "Oh," she said, "Oh boy, we all know that story. I thought you were going to share it." Well, in my 9th grade class, we had some type of an assignment and some hobby or something, I don't remember, and we had to teach it to the class. And I brought in an aquarium, and I showed how you put in the gravel, and you set up the filter. And I had buckets of water, and I poured in all the water. Well, this aquarium, the seams had dried out on the side, and so it began to leak all over her desk. Well, you know what? Why am I telling that story? Because it is exactly those kinds of stories in that family has passed down 3 more generations. And that was a story that the family had. And it's a silly story to me. It was kind of embarrassing at the moment, and I can't say it was her best moment at the moment. But the thing is,
probably wet papers all over the place, and
having
to
of
mop
course
the floor after, call the janitor.
Okay, but I'm sharing it because the point you made, you're not going to find that in a 23andMe or My Heritage, a DNA test, which I highly recommend everybody get. But you're not going to find stories like that are passing down, and there's stories upon stories that show you insights into the people that you can't get just from a scientific test on your DNA.
You'll be happy.
And those stories stop. Those stories stop when you aren't here anymore, unless you've passed them on.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story of the black sheep of our family. My Uncle Alvin. He's dead and gone, and he got right with the Lord before he left. But anyway, all of my life growing up, he was a drinker. And then one day I called him. He was in a rest. This was right before he went to a rest home, and he was up in years. And he says, Jim, I've quit drinking. I quit cold turkey. I said, you have? I said, I'm proud of you. He said, yeah. He went around a curve driving a car, and he had been drinking. He says, I took the curve too fast going on a loop. And he says, I rolled it 3 times. And he says, I'm sitting there in the car upside down. I'm thinking, boy, I got to quit this drinking. This will kill you. And see, that's a beautiful story that people can relate to, because if I don't share that with the family, it dies between me and him. But
Right.
that was his catalyst. And he says, I realized then what a failure I've been in my life. And I just, asked for forgiveness. And it's just like a burden got lifted off my shoulders, and I don't feel that weight anymore. That's a good story.
It is a good story.
And, yeah, people can relate to that because I came from a family that had black sheep in it,
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
going to
there's a
plug in
lot
a
of
quick one
difference.
here about my great grandmother. And I'm saying this for all of you women out there. A lot of times the stories of men are the stories that end up getting told. And I had a great grandfather who was an itinerant pastor, and he was featured in a biography of great pastors in the 1920s. But the story in the family that's not in that book is that my great grandmother took in washing and took in tenants, and they basically made a boarding house of their home to put him through seminary. She did this in the 1890s when women didn't work, basically.
Committed.
And that is an amazing story for all of the girls and women in my family. That goes if we don't tell those stories.
Our time is used up here, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, we got to do this again. Yeah,
absolutely. And one last thing, Emerson, do you mind sharing the name of the woman that you knew?
The one at my work.
No, sorry. The late passing. The early.
Your ninth grade teacher.
No, I don't. Ann Hawk. Ann Hawk.
Ann Hawk. Well, I'd like to send my positive message to them as well. That I hope their family is loved and that they know that.
Oh, they are.
And they're cared for, and they've got a really good person on their team over there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, our time is gone. I apologize for the technical issues me and Miss AT&T had. But anyway, we sincerely hope and pray that you enjoyed this show. Please share this show with others. Take some of the meat and potatoes that we shared with you and take it to heart. And whatever it might be, get busy, get into action, because the richest place on planet Earth is a graveyard. That's where all the dreams are buried. That's where all the stories are buried. That's where all of the inventions that were never invented are buried. On behalf of Emerson and Adam, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next Wednesday again with Adam, mentoring our youth, and we'll probably have a guest here. But anyway, we're going to have some great information. Thank you again. Have a blessed day. We hope that you and your loved ones are healthy, happy, and blessed in all areas of your life. Have a good day. Thank you.